Seiichi Hiragi is at the bottom of his school's social pecking order, but he and his entire school are appended when everyone in the school is transported into another world, gaining unusual skills and facing totally bizarre enemies. Seiichi is confused as ever when he wakes up to a half-naked girl, who starts hugging him and saying that she loves him. He is very disoriented since he was just in another world as a simple high school student. We discover that he was a pretty good and normal guy, but possessed physical features that lent themselves to bullying and rejection. However, that last day in school, he remembers a mysterious voice making an announcement to the school, saying that I am what those in your world would call a god, and you will all be sent to a new world as heroes. He grants them the ability to check their power level and skills, and also tells them to form groups. The other kids make fun of Seiichi, as he is the weakest with level 1 in all his statistics. No one wants to group up with him, so he is left alone and cannot be transported to the new world. So the voice decides to grant him one more special skill and sends him into this RPG-like fantasy land. Seiichi falls into the jungle, where he must get food and face beasts with great power. He begins to adapt to his environment and finds these fruits of evolution that will help him to raise his statistics. He digs in but finds them to be quite disgusting. However, a few moments later, he hears a robotic voice say, activating the effects of the fruit of evolution. Nothing happens, so he goes to look for more food and comes across these beasts. He panics a little after noticing they are level 120, and he is only level 1, so he waits a while until they leave. After the beasts go, he rushes out the bush and finds lots of the special fruit, along with other things like an item box and high-grade recovery potions. After improving a little, he sees how with the help of the fruit, his physical condition begins to change, but he is still at level 1. Meanwhile, his classmates were sent directly to the city with all possible comforts. Here we see this group, who are Seiichi's only friends, but from an old school in the past. On the other hand, Seiichi has consumed many healing fruits, life items and relics. After ranking up a couple of his abilities, a monkey comes out of nowhere and attacks him. He drinks a healing potion, but the monkey is too strong, and just when it looked like it was over for him, a stink cloud comes off of Seiichi and kills the monkey. Loot drops from it which ends up increasing his skills, and also finds a book containing the following information. Clever monkeys are monsters of great intelligence that live in high-level dungeons. They possess knowledge of herbs, and are capable of both alchemy and creating tools. He doesn't know how he can read the book since he's never seen this kind of writing before, but quickly realizes it was the special skill that the god gave him which allows him to read it. A few moments later, the robotic voice says, now commencing evolution, and Seiichi goes from being fat to slim. He also gains a huge boost in stats, however he is sad and surprised to see his evolution is still only 1 out of 10, even after defeating a level 120 clever monkey. 5 months go by, and Seiichi has started to get the hang of things. Everything seemed fine until a great level 7000 gorilla appears, who is the Kaiser Kong and boss of the clever monkeys. He arrives to challenge him and expects him to be weak. He throws a mean punch but Seiichi manages to dodge it, which weirdly impresses the gorilla as it is a female. Seiichi survives a flash fist from the gorilla which impresses her even more, and tells Seiichi I want strong males. He says no thank you, you are a gorilla. The gorilla gets upset and says I'm no gorilla, I'm Seiria, to which Seiichi says, why do you have the name of a pretty girl? And the gorilla blushes since he said pretty. Seiichi tries to destroy Seiria as he's not feeling her like that, however he messes up by using his own ability on himself, confusing Seiria and embarrassing himself. Seiria hits him with the flash fist, but Seiichi manages to eat it and survive, which impresses Seiria. The gorilla ends up falling in love with Seiichi and takes him to her lair, where she begins to treat him as her husband. This bothers Seiichi, who prefers escaping. However, he ends up sharing too much with Seiria and she ends up growing on him, even taking a lot of affection for her, not for a relationship but as a great companion. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates were frustrated because they had to practice swinging a wooden sword every day and learn the basics. Back to Seiichi. He tries to escape from the forest. He's running fast to a dungeon as he thinks it's the only exit from the forest, and Seiria is chasing close behind to prevent him from getting away. Seiichi has to use his instant movement skill to escape, and ends up at the dungeon where he meets an undead, who is surprised to see that a human managed to reach his room. Seiichi checks and finds his level to be 1500, and the demon instantly tries to kill him. However, Seiria jumps in the way and takes the hit. Seiichi is in pain and screams Seiria, finally calling it by her name. He apologizes to Seiria for being so mean to her, and Seiria says you're actually kind, telling him to smile. After a few moments, Seiria dies and Seiichi loses control. He faces the undead demon lord with all his strength. Seiichi counterattacks non-stop, using all the skills learned in the last months. He declares his love for Seiya and gathers all his strength to use his ocean impact ability, and that is how he defeats the great skeleton. Seiya's ghost is very sad and with the regret that she could not have her husband, and she gives him one last kiss that conveniently turns her into the beautiful girl from the beginning, which turns out to be the reward from defeating the Demon Lord, and also allowed him to level up and achieve his final evolution. His face changes and even his voice, thus forming the evolved protagonist who will break into this adventure. All of a sudden, a cute little thing called Mr. Sheep appears, who acts as an intermediary between levels and announces the rewards for completing the dungeon. They are being teleported to the outskirts of the forest, so Mr. Sheep gives Seiichi a helmet that later turns into a robe and Seiya a simple dress. Seiya is excited as she's never been outside the forest before, and Seiichi can't wait to start his new adventure. They join the Adventurers Guild, where the teachers ask him to pass an entrance exam with a girl named Altria. At first, she seems like a mean and militant person, but it doesn't take long for us to discover that she only intends to do good. Altria manages to create a connection with Seiichi and Seiya, opening up with them and gains more confidence in them. They take the exam required by the guild, where they both do well. However, things get complicated when they fall into a trap that teleports them to a dungeon full of tricks, where Seiichi and Seiya are separated from Altria by a wall. Altria encounters some enemies and dangers on the other side, but manages to hold her own. Meanwhile, Seiichi gets objects and improves his statistics. Altria ends up meeting the Black Dragon God, who is, according to humans, a formidable beast, and whoever runs into him has the worst luck. Altria says, "I'll show you how I earn the name Calamity," and uses all her strength to let out an epic attack on the dragon. However, she seems to be no match for it as he counters her easily and says to her, "Know your place." The Black Dragon God almost kills Altria, but just before it finishes her off, Seiichi appears and epically saves Altria. But not only that, he faces the legendary Black Dragon. He is a level 5000 beast and managed to hurt Seiichi several times, but when he gains confidence, he resorts to his techniques and skills learned, so the combat takes a different turn, and the dragon ends up being defeated by the same sword that was used when Seiichi was weaker. Here they claim their rewards, and Seiichi gains tons of power points, leveling up multiple times. They leave the dungeon, where Altria begins to blame herself as her luck is negative 2 million. However, Seiichi tells her that everyone is going to be fine, and the people from the guild including him love her. Seiichi doesn't rest until he manages to convince Altria that no matter what, they will always be there for her. Seiichi helps her by giving her a Ring of Happiness, a fantasy-grade item that will negate her curse and double her luck. In the end, Altria is confused by how many things that he is doing for her, so she begins to feel strange and avoids it. However, after some time, she decides to put this issue aside, and now as a member of the guild, Seiichi decides to look for information about the new world, realizing that the heroes summoned to kill the Demon Lord have their emperor as their director, who is a selfish guy that would do what is necessary to kill the demons. As we see a little later, he ends up using some mind control bracelets. However, for now, Seiichi is still on his own. He learns more medium level magic and takes a break to think about Altria, who at the same time finds herself confused in her feelings, so much so that her friend explains everything about love to her, making Altria realize she is in love with Seiichi. On the other hand, Seiichi realizes that he must clear things up, either by accepting the girl's feelings or by rejecting her, but he can't leave her like that, so the two meet, and before anything can be said, Altria kisses him and tells him that she knows he is not serious about her, since he has Seiya, but she still loves him and wants to find a way to be with him. So with Seiya's consent, Seiichi ends up accepting the two girls as companions. Everything calms down for now, until the guildmaster proposes him to get a horse, as they are a must-have, and will end up being very useful as an adventurer. So after some time, he manages to find this not very friendly donkey, but it seems to be very strong, so Seiichi decided to sign up with her to at least get a prize from the great tournament in the city. But from the beginning, things go wrong as the animal has been very poorly fed, so he decides to give it a fruit of evolution that not only activates it, but also raises all its statistics, thus gaining a lot of speed and killing all the competitors and obstacles in the way. So they end up winning the race, taking the recognition and being able to spend a day with the Valkyries, who are the strongest warriors of this kingdom. After eating the fruit of evolution, the donkey turns into a human girl, who is basically in love with our protagonist, so now he has the record of 3 girls accompanying him. He shares some time with them, until the Valkyries come take him away to the king's castle, where he can see how skillful the Valkyries are and his skills can be tested. The one who stands out the most is Louise, who is the most powerful as she ends up challenging 6 at one time. Seiichi thinks he has no chance, but we already know that the statistics are not an accurate measurement of his power. So not only does he manage to dodge all the attacks perfectly, he also manages to disarm her, thus earning the respect of the girl, as he is the first one who did something like that to her. So with help of an infiltrator, the demons send an assassin to the kingdom to attack the king. The girl ends up being captured by the same 6, but the crime is already done, and the king is seriously hurt. Seiichi uses his knowledge and manages to invert the curse bestowed upon the king, leaving him practically unharmed, becoming an ally of the kingdom. Meanwhile, Seiichi's classmates are being treated more and more as slaves by the emperor, who only wants to send them to die against the devil. We discover that the emperor took the little assassin from an ancient race, that they themselves led to extinction, leaving only the little one that they would train to serve the evil old man. The little girl is more or less a victim, so our protagonist uses his magic to remove the collar from her neck, and she is very grateful for it as now she can finally be free and rest. Seiichi is then reunited with all the girls. He takes advantage of being with the Valkyries and trains a little, but Louise urgently asks Seiichi to take care of the king's protection, since enemies have appeared on the border of the kingdom and they must take care of it. He quickly accepts, and at first everything goes well. He even meets the legendary Barnabas and spends time with the king. However, a wave of demons sent by the infiltrator appear, which are a much higher level than what the kingdom offers, but this does not stop them from preparing for the attack. They defend their lands, and somehow, the allies manage to not only maintain control of the situation, but also counterattack. However, the enemy has prepared a second wave that attacks from the bottom. Seiichi uses his abilities eloquently, making him look as if he were the true legend of the kingdom, and releases so much magic that it kills everyone, completely ending the combat and gaining him countless levels of power. Even Barnabas tells him that he could easily be a teacher at his school, which is the same one where all his classmates are. So now, he will meet again with everyone who discriminated against him for being the weakest. And here begins a new adventure for Seiichi and his harem of girls. So for now, he says goodbye to the kingdom to start his new path. And that brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. See you in the next one. Take care.